want to take you on a little journey that started for me 3 minutes after this picture was taken. I was a proud new father, living my normal life, and 3 minutes after this picture, my only son at the time, Connor, had a grand mal seizure. We rushed him to the local hospital, and a few hours later we were being airlifted to Children's Hospital in a drug-induced coma. Connor and I spent 9 days on that trip to the hospital, and it was an interesting introduction for me into the world of disabilities and what would become my life's work. After a few more seizures, a couple more hospital stays, and a lot of testing, we found out Connor was diagnosed with a rare genetic disorder called Angelman syndrome and an unbalanced translocation on his 12th and 13th chromosome. Angelman syndrome is a deletion or mutation on the 15th chromosome from the maternal side and is typically characterized by severe seizures, developmental disabilities, oftentimes for most an inability to speak, difficulties with walking and balance, ataxia, which is kind of a tightness in the muscles. And one positive characteristic is many of these individuals typically present with a happy and positive demeanor. When the doctor gave us Connor's prognosis, he said to us, "I really don't know what is going to become of Connor. I don't know." And unfortunately, what I can tell you is most likely Connor's not going to walk, he's not going to talk, and most likely he's not going to have purposeful interaction in his life. So there it was. The doctor wasn't aware of it, but he had just given me the biggest challenge of my life and had given me this 4-digit code that I needed to break for Connor. Walk, talk, interact, and have purpose. Once I got this code, I remember I needed to be alone, so I left the hospital and I went for a walk. And I ended up at a playground. And when I was sitting at that playground trying to process everything that I had just been told, the world around me slapped me in the face. I specifically remember a young girl turning and looking back at her dad and saying, "Daddy, come chase me," and watching the kids jump and play in the playground. And more importantly, watching those kids swing on the swing. Everything I saw that day in the playground was everything I thought I would never experience as a father. I made a commitment to myself the day in the playground that I would accept Connor's disability, but I would not let it define him. So we started making adaptations to our world. We got Connor involved with physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, hippotherapy, which is like horseback riding, any type of therapy that we could find. We also got Connor enrolled in a practice called conductive education that was established in Budapest, Hungary. We even got Connor a seizure alert dog so that she could help detect his seizures up to 30 minutes before they happen. And Connor spent hours, even years in these therapies trying to break the code and trying to accomplish what the doctor said he never would. For 3 years straight, we worked on a pincer grasp. Everyone, please show me your pincer grasp. For 3 years, we worked on that. And as a father, I was so frustrated. We weren't breaking the code. We were wasting our time. We weren't accomplishing anything. But then after 3 years, Connor started to gain that skill. And with that skill, he was able to feed himself. He was able to drink. And even more importantly, play on the swings. So once we learned how to break Connor's code, we started trying new things. They said Connor would never walk. If Connor walked, it wouldn't be with purpose. The picture on the left is a picture of Connor leading his fellow angels at the National Angelman Syndrome Foundation Walkathon. The picture on the right is actually a picture of Connor and I hiking down into the Grand Canyon to raise awareness for Angelman syndrome. Now obviously you can see we had to make some adaptations. Connor wasn't able to hike the whole thing, but he did hike. And I can say Connor was the only individual on that hike that was diagnosed with Angelman. Breaking Connor's code became a passion, an obsession. Everything we could do to try to break his code. If the doctor said he couldn't ride a bike, we made it happen. If you look closely at this picture, Connor's feet are actually Velcroed to the pedals. And when he couldn't push it himself, the little black rope on front was used to pull him along so he could ride his bikes with his siblings and his friends. They said Connor would never ride bikes, and just to prove him wrong, we even took it to the extreme. They said our family would never be able to go hiking, that most likely Connor would never play sports, that he wouldn't have the muscle dexterity to go downhill skiing, and most importantly for me, they said he would never be able to play on those swings. If they said Connor couldn't do it and we felt that he wanted to, we found a way to make it happen. Breaking this code for Connor and for others has taken us from our home to helicopter rides to Children's Hospital, to the White House, to Capitol Hill, to the bottom of the Grand Canyon and the top of Mount Kilimanjaro in Tanzania, Africa. I think it's safe to say that even though Connor may not speak, his voice has been heard around the world. What I didn't realize that day in the park when I was grieving was that as I learned to break Connor's code, I was also teaching myself how to break the code for others. Others whose diagnosis and so-called disability would limit the opportunities and expectations of what they could achieve in life. And it's with my work at the Autism Initiative at Mercyhurst University that we've done just that. Establishing a program to help adults on the autism spectrum that want a college degree but just need a little bit of extra support. And in the Autism Initiative at Mercyhurst, we've been able to do that successfully. 1 in 100 adults applying to colleges across the country is an adult on the autism spectrum. 1 in 100. The majority of these individuals have the cognitive abilities to succeed. They have that in spades. What they need is just a little bit of skills and adaptation so they can adjust to their new environment. So this is what we did. We took the same 4-digit concept that we developed with Connor, and we applied it to the 4 major areas that adults on the autism spectrum typically need support. And those are academic social progress, independence, social functioning, and emotional functioning. Some of the key components to our program: we established specialized housing where our students can live and learn together. We developed a peer mentor program to give our students access to socialization outside of AIM housing and across the campus community. We developed individualized modules to help our students with social and executive functioning skills. And we also developed a career path program to give our students the skills they need to obtain meaningful employment. And truthfully, that's the whole ultimate goal of what we're trying to accomplish. If we can help our students obtain meaningful employment, then we can help them live productive, independent lives. This matters to them, and it should matter to you too, and here's why. In the next 5 years, 250,000 adults on the autism spectrum will age out of children's services and into adult services. The majority of these individuals will be high-functioning adults on the autism spectrum that are already applying to higher education institutions in record numbers. This rising tide has even been classified as epidemic. And the big wave, that hasn't even hit yet. But let's talk about the symptomology of some of these individuals. The majority of these individuals have exceptionally high skills and intellect, even genius in specific areas. They have excellent rote memory. They feel very comfortable in environments that are sustainable, that they're used to. They do very, very well with repetitive and ritualistic behaviors. They oftentimes feel the need to fix and rearrange things. And probably most importantly, they have difficulties in some social situations that typically distract from productivity and efficiency. I don't know about you, but that sounds like an individual I'd like to hire. Many of these individuals do very well in detail-oriented tasks in an environment that they feel familiar in. What a business owner gets out of that is a long-term sustainable employee. The sad alternative? The sad alternative is that the majority of these individuals will transition into adult services that already costs $196 billion across this country and is projected to increase to $400 billion in the next 10 years. Adult services cost 3 times more than children's services, even though the access to obtaining skills for meaningful employment are extremely limited, and autism support services in the higher education setting are even more limited. In fact, 85% of all adults across the United States on the autism spectrum are under or unemployed, even though the majority of them have the skills, abilities, and oftentimes a college degree to obtain meaningful employment. 50% of the graduates from the Autism Initiative at Mercyhurst have graduated and obtained meaningful employment. The national average is 15%. So do we want 100%? Absolutely. But at 50%, we're already 3 times the national average. Three times the national average. Sometimes breaking this code is absolutely exhausting. Even the best locksmith doesn't open every door. And then at other times we do this small little thing and the 4-digit code just pops out. And we count that as a victory, and we get to watch that student blossom. I want to tell you a story. In the Autism Initiative, we send a letter out to every professor stating this individual is being supported by the Autism Initiative, and if you and or they have a concern, to give us a call. I had a professor contact me on the 2nd day of class and said, Brad, I had an assignment that I was explaining in my course that was worth 60% of the grade of my course. And truthfully, I don't think this student understood a word of what I was saying. So I'm calling you to see if you can help me so that I can help him. That assignment was supposed to take 10 weeks to complete. That student the following Tuesday turned in that assignment, and that professor said it was one of the best pieces of student-generated art that he had seen in 25 years. So we know there's a misrepresentation from what we think is being heard and what's actually being processed. We also know that there's a misrepresentation on what we think adults on the autism spectrum can accomplish and what they can truly achieve when we remove some of the barriers. We know that these individuals can succeed. But what we need to do is to create an environment where we can embrace these individuals as they are, where we can remove our socially archaic structures and norms so that they can succeed. And in that, we all win. And that is an idea we're spreading. Thank you.